All right. Okay. All right. So where are you guys from? Where are you guys, over in Appleton or Green Bay?
Green Bay.
Green Bay. Okay. Excellent. Awesome. So I'm over on the other side of the state. I'm over here in Hudson, Wisconsin. So I'm looking out my window right now and I can see Minnesota. So I'm super excited to be able to share with you guys my experience with working with buyers. I'm the team leader for the Keller Williams Hudson Market Center. We are the newest market center to join the Caleb Hayes Enterprises. And I'm really, really excited to share with you my experience prior to being a team leader with working with buyers. Okay. Who here works with a lot of buyers or is a buyer agent? Okay. Salvador is. Is anyone else a buyer's agent or primarily work with buyers? Yeah, maybe. No? Okay. All right. So here we go. I'm going to do a screen share with you guys. So hold on one second. Screen share. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about working with buyers. And I just want to make sure there's still people coming in. So I just want to make sure that Zoom did this thing where they now require you to, you have to like admit people in versus just letting them join in automatically. So I just want to make sure we're not missing anybody. Okay. And there's still people joining. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to share with you my story. We're going to talk a little bit about what I learned as a buyer's agent and what I wish I would have learned a lot sooner. And then I'm actually going to share with you my buyer consultation presentation that I used to convert buyers into appointments. I learned a lot of selling real estate and working with buyers the hard way. So my goal today is to really help bring a tremendous amount of value to cut your learning curve in half so that you don't have to go through a lot of what I went through, okay? That's my goal today, and I'm very, very passionate about talking with buyers. So my story, so prior to being a team leader, I started in real estate in 2010. I came to Keller Williams 6 months after getting licensed. I was the Rookie of the Year in my market center in 2011. It wasn't because I was the biggest producer. It was because I was the only person that started in real estate that year that didn't quit. Everyone else that joined real estate with me quit. My second year in real estate, I capped at Keller Williams. And then my third year in real estate, my team leader at the time, he decided to step out of the leadership role and go back into selling real estate. And he was going to build a 7th level real estate team according to the models and systems of the MREA. So he comes to me and he says, hey, Lisa, I know you're 3 years in the business. I want to build a team. Do you want to build a team with me? And I said, yes, I do. Okay. So I joined his team and it was just him and I didn't really know what was going to happen moving forward, but I just knew that I wanted to work with him because he was a leader and someone that I highly, highly respected. Okay. Now what had happened was he had gone down to family reunion that year and he signed up for this, this system called Boomtown. Are you guys familiar with Boomtown? Yeah, it's internet leads, okay? So he comes to me and goes, okay, you're gonna be on my team. I just secured our zip code. We've got all these leads coming in. You're gonna just convert as many as you can at the highest level possible. Just do what you can with it. They're all yours. Go ahead and just run with it. So I spent a majority of my career as an agent on a team converting internet leads from Boomtown. Okay. There was days where I would get 2 or 3 leads. And then there was days I counted, I'd get 14 to 15 leads. I was drowning in leads. Okay. I started out working with everybody. Everybody was important to me. Okay. You want to show a home or you want to see a home? Great. I'm your agent. And I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Okay. I did sell a lot of real estate, but I didn't have any systems in place and I didn't have any control of my time. Okay. Now they say that you can work with an average of about 7 to 8 A buyers. But if you work with listings, you can work with like 14 to 15 sellers. because it's basically the same amount of work. So I was working my tail off, okay? So we started bringing on more buyer's agents onto our team. And then I became what's called a lead buyer's agent. So I actually ran a 7th level real estate team with my partner, and I was mentoring, coaching, hiring the buyer's agents. There was 5 of them that worked underneath of me, okay? So what happened was I got to a point where I said, you know what? I'm working 100-hour weeks and I'm not selling as many homes as I probably should be. And that's when everything changed for me. When I really took a step back and I moved from being entrepreneurial to being purposeful, I implemented systems, expectations, and standards. And I'm going to share with you what I learned and how I did that. Okay. So that's a little bit about me. When I was my last year as an active buyer's agent on a team, I closed 48 units. I was in Woodbury at the time, the Woodbury Market Center. I closed 48 buyers. Okay. And everybody was coming up and patting me on the back because I was the #1 buyer's agent in all of Woodbury in the #1 market center. And everyone's like, way to go, Lisa, you're so great. What's your goal next year? And to be completely honest with you guys, I was exhausted. I was completely exhausted. I was like, I don't want to sell 60 homes, like doing what I'm doing because I have no time, right? So what was my next step in my career was hiring a showing assistant. Okay. So that's what I was going to do. I was going to hire a showing assistant. So I was just going to go ahead and use this presentation I'm about to show you today to go ahead and meet with clients, convert leads, write contracts, but I was going to have someone else do all the showings for me because that was my greatest opportunity to leverage my time. Okay. So as you grow as a buyer's agent, just know that the models and there's systems in place to help you continue to grow, but not necessarily have to work any harder. Okay. Okay. So before I share with you, what I learned, I want to talk about some interesting facts about buyers. This came from the National Association of Realtors. They do this profile on buyers and sellers. I'll send it to you guys, or I'll send it to your market center so you guys can see it. But there's some really interesting information in there that I wanted to share with you to kind of prepare you for what we're going to talk about. Okay. So last year in 2019, first-time home buyers made up 33% of all the home buyers out there. Okay. So if you're new in the business or you haven't done a lot of real estate, this should bring you some relief because most of the buyers, a third of the buyers are first time home buyers. So they don't know anything different. Okay. 20% of the home buyers were veterans and 3% were active duty. Okay. 89% of buyers that purchased their home purchased them through a real estate agent or a broker, and only 5% purchased directly from a builder or a builder's agent. Okay. When they asked the buyers, what's most important to you? They said having an agent to help them find the right property, the right home was what they wanted most. And that was 52%. They want help finding the right home. 75% of the buyers had only interviewed one realtor during their home search. So you're really not in competition with very many people, even though you think you might be. 90% of the buyers would use their agent again or would recommend their agent to others. You guys, this is super powerful. 9 out of 10 people you work with would use you again or recommend you to another client. Okay. 86% of the buyers ended up using financing to purchase their home. Okay. So just some really good information I wanted to share with you as we're having conversations about how to work with buyers at a high level. Okay. So what I did is I put a PowerPoint together on the top things I learned working with buyers. I just taught this in my market center a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to dive right in. Okay. The #1 tip I want to give you guys is when you're working with buyers, you absolutely need to know your market. Okay. Is anybody on this call fairly new in real estate? Okay. If I was a new realtor, this would be really important to me to know. Why is knowing your market important? Because market knowledge is the only thing that's going to trump having market experience. Okay. You absolutely have to know your market. So what are some of the things you need to know? What are some of the numbers and the statistics that you need to know about your local market? Okay. Well, you should probably know the average sales price. Okay. In Hudson right now, as of last month, the average sales price was $350,000. If you go 8 minutes south of here down to River Falls, the average sales price is $279,000. Okay. If you go across the river and just drive into Minnesota and go into Woodbury, the average sales price is $370,000. Oops. Okay. You need to know what's going on in your local market. You need to know this information. Okay. You need to know the average days on market, price per square foot, month supply of inventory. And then one of the most important things that I personally think you need to know as a buyer's agent is you need to know the top school districts in your area. Okay. Do you guys know what the #1 school district is in all of Wisconsin for 2020? It's in Brookfield, down in Brookfield. They're rated #1, Brookfield. Hudson, so I know that in my market in Western Wisconsin, Hudson and Amory are the 2 highest rated school districts in my area. So if I'm working with a family and they tell me that school districts is important to them, I want to know that information just off the top of my head. Okay. I know in Minnesota, the #1 school district is Minnetonka. Okay. You got to know these things so you can help people make better decisions around where to find and buy real estate. You got to become the local market expert, and you got to know it by knowing what's going on in your local market. Okay. Gary Keller said it best when he said that you are actually in the business of understanding the market and explaining it clearly and effectively with service thrown in along the way. Okay. That's your job. Okay. Tip number 2 is anytime you get a lead, and this was a
Hey, it's Michelle DeWitt. Hey, do you have time now, or are you not back in the office yet?
Why is that important? Why is your response time critical?
Yeah.
It's because we live in a fast food society.
I think you're going to want to see your numbers because Darren's looking for.
Okay, I'm going to mute you, Darren. Okay, we live in a fast food society. Okay, we want things and we want them now. We're used to having everything on our phone. So if you're converting internet leads, and we're just going to assume any lead for that matter, most internet leads are cold within how many minutes? Do you guys know how many minutes you have before basically the chance of converting them drops to 0?
15.
Okay.
It's 5.
Well, I guess going first with Francis Street, what are we looking at for the material costs in the basement? Thinking that it just seems so high.
Okay. Sorry, we're muting Darren. You have 5 minutes to convert a lead, an internet lead. If you get a lead from another realtor or you get a lead from someone in your sphere, I would still say call them as soon as possible. Okay. Because again, we live in a fast food society. We want things and we want them now. What % of leads don't get followed up with at all? Do you know? It's an industry average. It's 50%. 50% of leads do not get followed up with at all. Okay. Research shows that what % of sales go to the agent that responds first?
75.
Yeah, 75%. Yeah. It's closer probably to about 78%. But yeah, basically the first person that contacts them, especially if it's like an internet lead or, you know, if there's multiple people calling, your chances of converting that lead are really high if you're just the first person. Okay. My very first lead I ever got in real estate, I sold a $40,000 property to them. It was a lead from my market center at the time. We had this round robin system. And I called her up and I'm like, hey, I'm a realtor, you know, blah, blah, blah. I see you're interested in this property. She had already called a couple other realtors, but nobody had called her back yet. So she said to me, you know what? You're the first one to call me back. I'll work with you. I ended up selling her 4 properties. Okay. So you got to be on the ball. You got to call leads quickly. Okay. Here's the quote at the bottom. Your job isn't 9 to 5. You're a sales executive and you're more independent by nature. Your return for sacrificing occasional me time is more income than 90% of the workplace. Okay. So call those leads. Tip number 3 is you have to master your scripts. Scripts are really, really important, especially when you work with buyers. Okay. One of the greatest secrets to developing consistency in your business is to use a script for as much of the process as you can. Okay. I got to a point where every buyer consultation, I was using essentially the same scripts and I had internalized them. I didn't have to recreate the wheel. Okay. The toughest part of making any phone call or attending any meeting with the client, especially a buyer, it's always the beginning. Whether it's a sign call, whether it's a FISBO call, whether it's a call from anybody, you got to master the beginning, okay? And scripts are powerful because they're going to portray the confidence that they need to feel in you. It's all about confidence. It makes you efficient. It also allows you to be very present with that client at that time, okay? So I'm going to teach you guys something really powerful that I used in my business. And it's an acronym, but I call it a script. But I want you to write this down because this is a game changer, okay? All right. All right. Okay. LP Mama. And I was taught this by a very, very successful team leader back when I started. LP Mama. When you have a conversation with someone, say you're out to dinner with your spouse, say that you're doing whatever, and someone says, hey, yeah, we were thinking about buying a new home. And you're like, well, what do I say? Like, what do I say next, right? Here's a really easy acronym to use to guide yourself through a number of different questions and conversations to go ahead and help you set an appointment, okay? The goal is to always set an appointment, especially with the buyer, okay? All right, so L stands for location, okay? You're out and about and someone's like, hey, we're thinking about buying a home. What do you say? You say, great, where do you want to move? What location are you looking for? And the key is you always want to go 3 questions deep with every one of these letters, okay? Where do you want to move? Why do you want to move to that location? Are you looking anywhere else in that area? Okay, so location is important. The P stands for price range, okay? Great, so you want to move to Appleton. Awesome, great. What price range are you looking in? What price range do you feel comfortable with? Okay, so P stands for price. The M stands for motivation, okay? So why are you moving? Tell me more about that. Why is that important to you? The motivation is the most important out of all of these letters. It's your hook, okay? When you know someone's motivation for moving, you always go back to it and remind them of their motivation and what they told you, okay? The A stands for agent. Great, you want to move to Appleton. You're looking in the $300,000 price range. You're moving because you're having another baby. Do you have a real estate agent? Okay. Now, some people will say, yes, I do. Okay. And when they say that, you want to ask a follow-up question. Great. Do you have a buyer agency contract with them? Because if they do not have a buyer agency contract, they're basically, they're free game, right? They're fair game. They're up for grabs. If they do have a buyer agency contract, then you're going to wish them all the best and you're going to walk away. You do not ever try to poach a client, okay? Now, this has been my experience. Again, I've talked to hundreds of thousands of people. Do you have a real estate agent? Yes, we do. Great. Do you have a buyer agency agreement? Well, no, what's that? We really haven't even talked to our agent in like 6 months. I mean, yeah, so-and-so showed us a house 3 months ago, but I guess we're really not working with that person. So you really want to figure out, do they have an agent? Do they have a contract? And if not, you're going to want to move forward with setting that appointment with them, okay? The M stands for mortgage. Are you pre-approved? Are you paying cash? Are you looking for financing? Would you like me to recommend you to 3 of my top favorite lenders in the area? Okay, you always want to figure out if they are pre-approved. You never show homes to a buyer unless they're pre-approved. I used to always put it back on the seller. Sellers do not want buyers that aren't pre-approved just walking through their house. And it's pretty much the truth. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want just a bunch of random people coming through my personal property if they're not really qualified to buy it, okay? And then what happens is as you go through this list of questions with them, the last A stands for setting the appointment for the buyer consultation. So if you ask them about the price, if you ask them about their location, if you ask them for motivation, if you ask them if they have an agent, if you verify that they need financing, the next question is saying, great, you set the appointment. And here's my script, okay? This is my favorite script. This is how I set tons and tons of appointments, I'd say this. Has anybody ever taken the time to sit down with you and explain how the home buying process works in today's competitive market? And they're going to say, no, nobody's ever taken the time. Nobody? You're kidding me. Nobody's ever taken the time to sit down and explain how the home buying process works. Well, I'm different. Okay. I want to make sure that you understand what's going on right now in the market so we can get you the best deal possible. Would you have time tomorrow at 4 o'clock or would Friday at 3 o'clock be better? But if you go through all of these different questions and you go 3 deep on each one, 99.9% of the time when you ask them for the appointment, they'll say, yeah, how soon can we meet? Because most realtors never go through this conversation with them. They don't ask questions. They don't ask great questions, okay? I also, when I was calling internet leads, I would use a buyer lead sheet. So I recommend using one of those because sometimes you just get distracted, especially if you're new. It just helps you guide that conversation and just gets all that information right away. You can find copies of these on KW Connect as well. I'll send it to you though. Okay, so this is my script. Has anyone ever taken the time to sit down with you, explain the home buying process in today's competitive market? Okay, here's my second favorite script. If spending 30 minutes with me could save you hours of time and thousands of dollars in your home search, would that be of benefit to you? Okay, nobody's gonna say no to that, okay? They're gonna say, yeah, that would be a great benefit. Great, let's meet. Does tomorrow work or does Friday work better? Okay. Do not, I repeat, you guys, do not show homes to buyers unless you have a buyer consultation and you have a buyer rep agreement. Okay. Even my friends, I sold a house to my best friend and her fiance. I still went through the same process with them. I met them at Green Mill and we did a buyer consultation. Okay. If you want to become a professional, if you want to work with buyers at a high level, if you want to ensure you don't waste your time, you need to set the appointment, okay? My philosophy was that when I started in real estate as a buyer's agent, I was working with a lot of pennies, okay? A lot of pennies, which means just random people. And my philosophy, flipped. And I go, you know what? I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies, or even like 10 dimes than 100 pennies. And what is a dime? What is a quarter? It's someone that I've actually sat down and had a conversation with. It's someone that signed a buyer rep agreement with me. It's someone that I've got agreement to work with them. I'd rather have 4 people than 100 people that have no loyalty to me, okay? Because my time is very, very valuable, okay? And I want you to think of it the same way. All right, we're gonna move forward. Tip number 4, you gotta learn how to connect with people, especially buyer's agents. You have to connect with people. Why? Why is that important? Because it's gonna help you increase your influence with them, okay? Has anybody ever had it where you've been working with a buyer and you showed them a ton of properties and you finally got one under contract and then mom and dad showed up to the inspection and they tore the house apart? Right? I've had that happen where they're like, this is terrible. Why are you buying this house? Well, they didn't see the 15 houses we looked at prior to, right? But if you have a great relationship with that client, if you've done your job, if you've connected with them at a high level, they won't listen to their parents. They'll turn to you and say, Lisa, what do you think? Do you think that this is a bad purchase, right? They'll trust you. Okay, so connecting with people is all about asking great questions and truly listening to what they say, being very present in the moment. They did a survey and they asked buyers, okay, what are the 2 most important things you want in your buyer's agent? Do you know what they said? This was a survey that they did. Okay, the most important thing that people want in their agent, particularly buyer agent, is they want someone that will be honest with them. Okay, and someone that's trustworthy, okay? They didn't say they want a ton of experience, although that is important. They want honesty and trustworthy, okay? What do buyers care least about in their agent? You wanna know what it is? It's designations. So you know how you can go to all those fancy classes and get like the GRS or the I don't even know what they stand for, right? And you can put them behind your signature. They don't care about that. They care about trustworthy and honesty, okay? So as you're connecting with people, it's about listening to them. While you are while you are qualifying, they're connecting. The person that talks the most feels the most connected to the other person. You guys ever gone out to dinner or hung out with a friend and all they did was talk the whole time? I have. They talk the entire time. In fact, I just taught Ignite, and I have a financial advisor. Love him to death, but every time we get together, all he does is talk. I hardly can get 2 words in. It's so frustrating. Make sure that they are talking more than you are, okay? Make sure that they're talking a lot, okay? And this is one of my favorite quotes at the bottom. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. It's all about other people, okay? All right, tip number 5 is you got to learn how to mirror and match people. Okay, it's a super, super powerful tool. It's a strategy to help your buyers feel comfortable with you. And so when you think about how to mirror and match, think about this. Communication is only 7% verbal, 55% the body language you use, and 38% the tone of your voice, okay? So if you're standing outside a house talking about it and the clients are standing there like this with their arms folded, guess what you do? You fold your arms and you stand there and you mirror and match them, okay? If you're having a buyer consultation and they sit back in their chair and they cross their leg, guess what? You do the same thing. You mirror and match them, okay? It's a powerful tool. You also need to understand the DISC and how to effectively communicate, okay? Do you guys do DISC training in your market center? The DISC personality profiles? I can't really see anybody because it's a small screen. Okay, so if you haven't done any classes on the DISC, go to a class if you can, or just Google it and understand how the DISC works. Basically, what they did is they looked at the entire world and they said basically everybody can be broken down into 1 of 4 quadrants in terms of personality and behavior style. The second you can identify what DISC profile a client is, the easier it is to communicate with them, to connect with them, to mirror and match them, okay? So personally for me, my profile is I'm a really, really high D and I'm a really high I. So when I have to work with a person that's a really high C, and a high C is someone that's very analytical, very detailed, engineers, very accurate, it drives me up the wall, okay? It's really hard for me because I move fast, I talk fast, I do things without thinking about them, right? I'm a fast-moving person. But if I'm able to identify, okay, this is a C person, this person is going to want to be able to have the numbers, they want details, they want me to slow down, it's going to help me to help them in a better way, and I'm going to enjoy working with them a lot more, okay? So understand the DISC and understand how to mirror and match people based on the DISC. So Tony Robbins used to do a free DISC assessment on his website, but it's not free anymore. It's like 20 bucks. So you can still do it. It's a great tool just to learn your personality style and then how to communicate with others. Okay. Tip number 6. So again, I was converting internet leads at a high level. You know, I'd go on anywhere from 3 to 8 appointments a week with buyers. Sometimes I'd do 3 a day. And I had to get to a point where I had to start classifying buyers into categories, okay? So we actually printed a sheet of paper and we would say, okay, well, they would come into the market center to meet with me and I would give it to my front desk, my Dofi, and I would have her give them the form before I came up front to meet with them. And I would have them tell me, are you an A buyer, a B buyer, or a C buyer? And it's all around their time frame, okay? And I would explain to them, you know, A buyers are people that have to move quickly because their lease is up or, you know, something's happening. You know, those are my first priority. B buyers, you know, people that have a little bit more time, and C buyers are people that are really open to moving any point in time, okay? So they would tell me what they were. And you have to start classifying people, because otherwise what happens is you have a bunch of C buyers, people that are not looking to make a move for 6 months to a year, all of a sudden taking up all your nights and weekends. And trust me, it happened to me, okay? I was running my tail off. I was working 100-hour weeks. And I was like, these people aren't ready to buy for a year. What am I doing, okay? So make them tell you which one they are. I would recommend using the pipeline tool and opportunities to go ahead and classify your A buyers, your B buyers, and your C buyers. Use the custom tags, okay? But you gotta start classifying people. Okay, tip number 7, the buyer consultation, my favorite part of working with buyers, okay? So the very first step in delivering a great customer experience is you have to set expectations with buyers, okay? Your goal with your buyer consultation is to position yourself as the trusted go-to person, okay? Because anybody will just show them a home, but what makes you different? Research shows that 86% of buyers will work with the first or the second agent that they meet with in person, okay? So just get in front of them, all right? And here was my layout for having a buyer consultation, okay? You're gonna spend the first 5 to 10 minutes talking about Ford. If you're not familiar with Ford, here's what it is. It's an acronym, okay? F stands for family, O stands for occupation, R stands for recreation, and D stands for dreams. Tell me about your family. How did you meet? What do you do for work? How long have you been there? What do you guys do for fun? Are you guys doing anything fun for, you know, Thanksgiving that's coming up? And then D is dreams. So tell me, why are you here today? How can I help you? What is making a move look like to you? Okay, so you're gonna spend 5 to 10 minutes talking about that. Tell me about yourself. And then you're gonna spend 15 to 20 minutes doing a needs analysis with them. Now, when I first started doing consultations, I would print off like these 7-page, these notes with, it had all these questions. It was like, tell me about what kind of living room you want. Tell me about what kind of backyard you want. And it had hundreds and hundreds of questions. I got to a point where I got so good at it that I would just come in every appointment with a blank piece of paper. And I would say, tell me what's important to you in your new home. Okay, and I would just write things down. I didn't need a ton of different questions to ask, okay? You always wanna make sure that you ask them these 3 questions. What is most important to you in the agent you choose to work with? What's most important to you in the agent that helps you buy a home, okay? What are your goals? And then how do you prefer to be communicated with? Do you want me to text you? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to email you? Ask them those questions, okay? And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go through the home buying process presentation, which you're all gonna get today. You guys can just go ahead and make it your own. We call it R&D at Keller Williams, which means you can rip off and duplicate. I share this with all my agents and several of them use it. Oops, we're gonna mute you. Okay, and then at the very end, after you go through the presentation, you're gonna seek the agreement and close for the buyer agency agreement. It takes about 5 minutes, okay? All right, tip number 8, okay, we're gonna come back to the consultation, but tip number 8 is you need to track your numbers, you guys. So it's powerful, you have to track your numbers. What are the numbers in your business you need to track? Well, as a buyer's agent, I would track my conversion rate, okay? So if I'm going on 10 buyer consultations, how many are signing a buyer agency agreement? And of the people that sign a buyer agency agreement with me, how many of those are actually closing, okay? It's a way for you to really analyze how to get better and how to become more efficient. You're gonna wanna track your average sales price to list price ratio, okay? So if the average, so this is kind of different now because like in our area it's like 100%, but back when I sold, you know, a lot of real estate, it was like 95% or 97%, right? So if I could come into a buyer and say, hey, the average list price to sales price ratio in my market is 95%, but my personal numbers, I'm at 93%. So I get my clients a better deal than the average agent. I'm gonna help you get a better price on this home. And these are my numbers. Okay, so you need to know that. How many A, B, C buyers do you have in your pipeline? What's your average sales price? How many contacts are you making daily? What are your top 3 sources of business? And do you have a P&L? Are you tracking your numbers? Are you tracking your mileage? Okay. Now, I was a buyer's agent on a team, so I was splitting my commission 50-50 with my team. but at the end of the year, I didn't have any expenses. So my biggest expense was mileage. So I needed to keep track of that, okay? It's important because what you measure, you will manage. So make sure you're tracking your numbers, okay? Tip number 9, especially as a buyer's agent, you need to ask for referrals and testimonials, okay? So powerful. In fact, again, I was on a team, so we had a transaction coordinator who would ask people to fill out a testimonial for me after the closing. And then she would upload them into all these places. You guys, I got tons and tons of people calling me to work with me just because of all the reviews and testimonials I had, okay? In fact, we actually had a client that came through our team, and he was connected with one of the newer agents, and he started doing his research on our team, and he saw all my testimonials and my referrals that I got on Zillow. Unfortunately, it was Zillow. And he asked if he could switch agents on our team and work with me. And I sold him a $670,000 house, and it was cash. Okay. Powerful. Testimonials do 3 things. They support your credibility. They strengthen your reputation and your trust. They attract a deeper interest in prospective clients and existing clients. Okay. Where do you post a testimonial? Everywhere, right? You post them on your blog, your Facebook page, your website. You can put them on mailers, buyer presentations, powerful to do. Listing presentations, Google and Zillow, okay? Make sure you get those. Here's a great script to use. You are so great to work with, and I would love to find more clients like you. Do you know of anyone, maybe from church or work, who I could help with their real estate needs, okay? All right, and tip number 10, okay? I wish someone would have told me this sooner in my career. Okay, say no to 20% of the buyer leads you get, okay? It's okay. You don't want to work with everybody, all right? It's hard to fire clients, but sometimes you just have to fire them because you're just like, this is not going to work out for me. This is not a win-win anymore. So what are some of the reasons you might say no to working with a buyer? Okay, these are some that I came up with, okay? First off, they want to buy a house. They need to sell their house, so they're contingent, but they want to do it FSBO. I was like, oh, no, that's not good, right? They have a beer budget on a champagne taste, okay? Like right now in my market, you really can't buy anything for under $250,000. It just doesn't exist. So when people come and they're like, hey, I want to buy a $100,000 property, I'm like, sorry, like I can't find that for you. I'll find someone else that can, right? Just kidding. They're not willing to pay your commission if they buy a FSBO. FSBOs, which is for sale by owners, are popping up all over the place because of how hot the market is. You want to make sure that when you have that buyer consultation, you explain how you get paid. And you also make sure that if the seller is not willing to pay your commission, that they are willing to. If they want to work with multiple agents and they refuse to sign a buyer agency agreement, I'd really question if I want to spend my time with them. Probably not. They're discriminatory in their search, okay? They're discriminatory. So they want to live in certain neighborhoods where certain people live, or they don't want to live in certain neighborhoods based on certain people. I would probably steer clear from those people. They refuse to get pre-approved. Okay, that's a huge red flag, okay? They won't get pre-approved. There's a reason why. Their search is too far away, okay? Once you're really busy or you're lead generating every single day and you have a pipeline, you don't want to drive an hour and a half to show a property. You're better off to refer it, okay? And then the last one is if they're looking for like a commercial deal or an area outside of your expertise, just refer it out. Just say no and refer it out, okay? Again, 4 quarters in real estate is better than 100 pennies. So you have to say no to 20% of the leads that might come your way, okay? Again, I wish someone would have told me that a lot earlier because I learned everything the hard way. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Oh, let's see. Nope, no questions. Okay, all right, so we've got about 8 minutes left, okay? So I'm gonna show you my buyer consultation. I'll send it to your market center so that they can mass share this with all of you, okay? Okay, so this is yours to use if you want to. You can change it. You can put your name all over it. You can do whatever you want. I want to truly bring value, come from contribution, and help as many of you as I possibly can. The home buying process. So they come in, they meet with me. We talk about Ford. We go through the needs analysis. Tell me what you're looking for. The next step is going through the home buying process. I would bring my laptop with me and I would go through this, or I would put it up on a TV screen in my market center in one of our conference rooms, okay? So I just taught Ignite and someone asked me, they go, how many homes will you show someone before you set a buyer consultation? And I said, ooh, good question. I really, really encourage you that before you ever show a property to someone, that you sit down and you do a consultation, okay? Because it's really hard to set the consultation after you show them a property and you lose control. Now, sometimes you're showing a property and it's, you know, they're coming from the north side and you're coming from the south side and the property's in the middle. So you're like, well, I don't really want them to have to come to my market center to meet with me. You guys meet them at a coffee shop, right? Meet them. I've met people at McDonald's. I've met people in a bar. I've gone to people's houses. Just meet them anywhere but the house. And if you need to make it really short, you can. If you need to do a consultation in 20 minutes, that's okay, all right? But the goal is that you have to meet them outside of the property. Otherwise, you're not really a realtor. You're not bringing any value to the relationship, okay? So I would go through this process with them. First off, you're going to talk to them about why they should buy a house or why buying a house is a wonderful thing. Talk about the American dream, right? Talk about the tax deductibility of mortgage, interest, and property taxes. Again, talk to your accountant, but there's some benefits there. Appreciation. Did you guys know 26% of all the wealth in the world is tied up in real estate? It's a wonderful thing. Real estate is still considered one of the best long-term investments. And the beautiful thing too is that there's no landlord. Whether you own a house or you rent, you're making a mortgage payment. Are you paying your own mortgage or are you paying someone else's mortgage for them? If you tell that to a renter, all of a sudden they go from like 0 to 100 overnight. They're like, you're right, we need to buy a home. I'm sick of paying this crazy mortgage. Plus there's a profit margin added onto the top, right? You need to have some information about the local real estate market. And now I use Northstar MLS and we pull statistics from InfoSparks. So what I do is I pull statistics and I bring that with me either based on the school district, based on the area, or based on the county. But I bring some sort of numbers to show them with me. Again, I want to become the expert. Market knowledge trumps market experience. So bring some numbers with you to share with them, okay? Step number one, I'm going to talk to them about getting pre-approved. Did you get pre-approved? Why you should get pre-approved. It's going to help you figure out which price range to buy in, right? It's going to save you time. You're going to know how much closing costs you're going to need or how much we're going to need to ask for from the seller. It's going to give you negotiating power. And the best part is getting pre-approved. It's completely free. Okay. So you talk about pre-approval. If they're not pre-approved yet, do not show them houses. Okay. Get them pre-approved. You need to talk about how they're going to be represented. You have to talk about agency with them. So buyer's agents represent buyers, sellers agents or listing agents represent sellers. Sometimes one agent or one brokerage will represent both sides of the transaction. Are you okay with that? Okay, let them tell you. My job as your buyer's agent is to advise you throughout the transaction. Hey, just so you know, sellers typically pay all of our commission. It's where you're going to talk about FSBOs too. Okay, this is what happens if I, are you still willing to pay my commission if the sellers aren't willing to pay it? And then just make sure that they know realtors are paid on commission only. You wouldn't believe how many people think that we get paid a salary. They're like, you're commission only? What? Keller Williams doesn't pay you a salary as an agent? No. In fact, they take some of my money from me, right? So make sure that they know that. So then they know that they shouldn't waste your time. You don't get paid for the time that you are out there in the field showing them properties. Step number 3, looking for your new home. Always tell people, do not be surprised if the first home you look at is the one you buy. When you tell them that, sometimes that first home is the one they buy. And you're telling them that in advance. You're setting that expectation. This is my favorite one. On average, buyers typically look at 7 to 12 properties before finding their perfect home. Now that's probably changed because of the market. So you can edit that, okay? It's probably closer to like 3 to 5 because there's such limited inventory. Okay, tell them to always go with their gut feeling. And then tell them that their honesty, the feedback, and the communication during the home search is really key. I don't own the home. I don't live in the home. So be honest with me and tell me what your thoughts are so that I can truly help you. Okay? Don't hide anything from me. Don't feel like you have to sugarcoat anything, right? Talk about the MLS. So when people would work with me and sign a buyer agency agreement with me, I would put them on a search through our MLS. If they did not have a buyer agency agreement with me, they didn't get access to my MLS because it was a huge value that I could provide to them, okay? It's the best tool we have as realtors. It's gonna save them time or energy. And we have this instant notification program. So you no longer need to go on Zillow. You don't need to go on any other website. In fact, you're gonna get the same information that I'm gonna get in the same time frame, okay? So tell them that's part of why you signed a buyer agency agreement with me, is I'm gonna give that to you. You're gonna talk about for sale by owners. Sometimes we love them, sometimes we don't, right? I've worked with a lot of FSBOs. If you see a FSBO, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Buyer, I'm sorry, make sure you call me first. Don't call the for sale by owner, call me. The reason is because I'm gonna gather information. I'll set up that showing for you, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull comps and make sure that this property is priced right. Oftentimes as buyer's agents, we can negotiate our commission into the transaction, and that's something that I will do. But just know that many times for sale by owner properties, they actually need more than the home is worth. And that's why you really, really need to have me on your side, is to really make sure that we get you a great price on that property. I also talk about new construction, because if you've ever worked with a buyer for a long time and then all of a sudden they show up at a model home and then they're under contract with the builder and you're like, what? I didn't even know, right? Make sure that if you want to buy new construction or you're interested in new construction, come to me. I'll help you find the land and I'll help you find a builder, okay? Typically builders pay realtor commissions, right? And I'm gonna work with you on the closing. I'm gonna work with your mortgage lender. I'm gonna do everything I can to ensure there's smooth closing. Oh, and just a heads up, typically the time frame for working with the builder is anywhere from 4 to 6 months. Actually right now in our market, it's way longer. So it's even more important to have a realtor because the process is 2 to 3 times longer. So I'm gonna make sure that we get you to that closing table, okay? Step number 4, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is we're gonna write a contract, okay? Just so you know, the contract is standard in the state of Wisconsin, so we don't recreate it every time. Sellers are gonna look at 2 terms that are really gonna have the most influence or impact on them working with us: the price and any contingencies. We need a copy of your pre-approval letter, and we can also do everything electronically. Does that work for you? Okay, get their consent up front. You talk about earnest money. What is earnest money? Okay, if you don't talk about earnest money, this has been my experience, all of a sudden it comes time to have them write that check and they say, I don't have any money. Or, hey, can we write an earnest money check for $200? I'm like, no, we can't, right? So you got to talk about earnest money. Make sure that they know that it's cashed and it will be held until it's cashed, and that they only submit it once the offer's been accepted. At closing, they get that money back to them, and typically it's 1% of the purchase price or whatever it is in your market. So say to them, okay, you're looking for a $300,000 house. Do you have $3,000 cash right now to put down as earnest money in your account? You will be surprised. Some people do, some people don't, okay? You got to talk about inspections and testing, okay? A lot of people in my experience get the inspection and the appraisal mixed up and they don't remember which is which, okay? So make sure that they know that it's not a requirement of the loan, but I do highly, highly recommend it. We're only though gonna ask for repairs if it's a safety issue or a hazard to your health. It's not a honey to-do list, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer? It's only things that are big ticket items. You're gonna pay for the inspection at the time of the inspection out of pocket. It's typically $300 to $350. Also, we can ask for other inspections like well, septic, radon. If there's a pool, we can do a pool inspection, but we'll determine that at the house, okay? Or based on the contract of the house that you're purchasing. Got to talk about the appraisal. It's only required if you're getting a loan. The mortgage lender will want to make sure you don't overpay for the property. If the property does not appraise, we are going to go back and renegotiate with the seller. Okay, so you got to make sure that they know the difference between the appraisal and the inspection, because sometimes they get mixed up. Talk about home warranties. Very, very powerful tools you can include or ask the sellers to include. Talk about why they're important. Okay. Talk about the final loan commitment, okay? It's very, very important during the process, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that you do not purchase any big items. Do not run your credit card. Do not buy furniture, okay? Don't do anything that requires running your credit report. Tell them that, because I've had deals fall apart because I didn't tell them that, and the lender didn't tell them that. And they were kind of like right at the edge anyway, and we had to, some of them came together, but there's some instances where the buyers can't close. It's not a fun conversation to have with the listing agent. Okay, tell them it takes on average 30 days for the final loan commitment. Make sure that they know if their lender needs anything, that they get it to them as soon as possible, okay? And then once you get your final loan commitment, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we're gonna go ahead and get your final walkthrough set up, okay? Talk about the closing. Tell them it takes about an hour. Tell them what they need to bring, which is their driver's license and a cashier's check or wire transfer, okay? Tell them they're gonna sign a ton of documents. Their wrists will get sore, okay? And then tell them that you can move in immediately after closing, okay? And again, you're doing this all before you even show them properties. You're preparing them to be, to have a great experience working with you. And then of course, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, after you move in, make sure you transfer the utilities, okay? Very important to do. Make sure you tell them a sign company will come and remove the sign. I have had buyers that ripped the post out of the front yard and they threw it in the fire pit. And yeah, not good, right? So make sure you tell them, don't touch the sign, someone will come pick it up. If you're in Minnesota, make sure you homestead right away, and please enjoy your new home and start unpacking, okay? So that would be the process I would go through with them. And then I would go into the buyer agency agreement. I would ask them if they have any questions, and I would ask them if they want to work with me, okay? If they said, we're not sure yet, because some people, you know, signing a contract is a really big deal, I would send it home with them, and I would say, okay, in order for us to move forward, we need to have a win-win. We need to be in agreement that we're going to work together and partner together, okay? And typically what would happen is they would send me the contract the next day, or if I did show them a property, they would bring the signed contract to the property with them, okay? But it kind of makes you like, it makes them feel exclusive, where I only give this services to people I work with and they want to be your client, okay? And then from there, you just go show them properties and you write contracts and you make a lot of money and have a lot of fun. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions? Oh. Someone said I get a lot of online leads from people who are hours away from me looking for property in my area. I'm assuming you're doing buyer consultations via Zoom for this type of situation. Yes, I would absolutely do Zoom, or I would do FaceTime or whatever it would be to do consultations for anybody that's further away. Absolutely. In fact, when I sold real estate, we didn't really do anything virtual because it was back like 5 years ago. I would prefer right now to do a buyer consultation virtually than I would face-to-face. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've actually talked to a lot of my buyer's agents that are doing this, and they prefer the same thing too. It's to do it via Zoom instead of face-to-face, if they can. So great question. Anyone else have any questions? No? Oh, yes, I will be sharing my PowerPoint as well. So I'll send you all this information. Again, you guys can R&D it, copy it, start using it tonight with your first consultation. Reach out to me anytime if you have questions. I love helping people work with buyers, especially our agents here. And I'll share anything I can. Awesome. All right. Well, we're all done. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, you're welcome. People are saying thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. And I'm here to help any way I can. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.